You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all or nearly all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. I need to modify my intro. Today we're discussing the Voyager episode, Twisted. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
And Father Jason Tyler. Hey, Father.
Hello.
Folks, be sure to follow The Secrets of Star Trek. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're at Spotify, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, or watch us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia, where you should subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications, leave us a comment, all those things. I said nearly all because there are some Star Trek series that we don't talk about here, like Star Trek Discovery. We kind of gave up on, and
we don't talk about Fight Club.
We don't talk about Fight Club or Beverly Hills 90210 in Space, which is what Starfleet Academy kind of looks like from its recent trailer. But I'll watch it, but I'm not sure we'll discuss it on the show. Or if we do, we'll do it as a just Father Jason and I, maybe.
So one-time full season recap kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly. just to cover it. All that as preliminary, we are discussing the Voyager episode, the second season Voyager episode, Twisted. And Jimmy, can you give us a recap of what happens in this one?
This week, Kes has a birthday, so of course Neelix once again struggles with jealousy. Voyager also encounters a strange space anomaly that twists the ship so that the doors don't go to the right places. We spend about 40 minutes watching the characters not getting where they want to go before they decide to do something sciencey and engineering to cause the implosion that's happening to the ship to explode instead. Only instead it makes the implosion implode harder. They end up with no alternatives except waiting for the implosion to finish imploding, but they think maybe it'll be okay if we let it do that, and it is. The end.
That's about all there was.
Yeah.
Father, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, a very meh episode. As I started watching it last night to prepare for today, I'm like, okay, now what was this about again? What happened here? And, I had a hard time remembering how it turned out. And even not remembering how it turned out, I still found myself looking at my phone and otherwise distracted as this episode moved along. And then the B plot of Neelix getting jealous was even less interesting.
How about you, Jimmy?
Yeah, it's really boring, and it doesn't hold up on any further analysis. I mean, the more you think about this, the worse it is.
Yes.
The idea of having a ship become spatially distorted, well, that's interesting. That could be interesting. But the way they've done it, if you think about it at all, there's just incredible problems with it. I mean, like at one point they show a diagram on a screen of how the ship has supposedly been twisted, and it's like, I'm sorry, that is not spatially twisted. That's spatially crumpled a little bit.
Yeah.
There's no way that what they've been encountering is represented by that diagram. But even if you set that aside completely, there's just all kinds of problems with this. Like, why is the ship twisted in such a way that people still can walk through doors normally?
Right.
And why are the conduits that bring electricity to the different rooms of the ship apparently all the same in every single room on the ship, no matter what its shape is, so that the electricity keeps working,
and the air
and air and water and everything?
Yes.
I mean, they ought to be, if you really had isolated bits of the ship jammed against each other for spatial reasons, there ought to be sparks and electricity and water and everything going wrong at once. And we don't see any of that. They're just walking around and a door opens and it's somewhere they're not expecting. And it's just, even the door opening shouldn't work, because they've got the sensor in a hallway to tell them someone is approaching this door, but the door that needs to open is to a room in a different part of the ship. Right. So none of this makes any sense.
And how can the doors to rooms that are on different levels of decks of the ship all look apparently just fine in that like the corridor where Kes and and Neelix were, like this cabin's supposed to be on deck 7 and this cabin's supposed to be on deck 6. It's like, well, they look absolutely normal. Nothing wrong. It's just a different label on them. Like if they had decided to say it's not that the ship is twisted, but that the ship, some weird extra dimensional thing has caused doorways to be dimensional jumps. I mean, who knows? Well, come up with some space timey-wimey thingy. Like you could have done it, but the explanation they gave made zero sense and was impossible to believe. And yeah, it was kind of driving me a little crazy watching it. And they made the cardinal sin of making it boring. It dragged. It just there's lots of people walking in corridors and having conversations about things unrelated to the current situation. And in fact, when I was reading the production notes on this one, that's precisely what happened. The show was running short when they wrote it, and they had to add in these extra conversations, which were boring. Like, Neelix being jealous is boring at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least they kind of hung a lampshade on it because, when Neelix, I mean, I have in my notes, so the story opens with a surprise party for Cass in that French bar thing that Tom Paris has in the holodeck.
And this is the most interesting part of the episode.
Yeah. And so everybody terrifies Cass with a surprise party because she doesn't know what a surprise party is. And then Tom Paris gives her but nevertheless, she's totally fine with it. I mean, she's appreciative that they've given her a surprise party, even though 5 seconds earlier, she had no idea what one was. And, okay, you're just showing off how perfect Cass is, which is why she's a boring character. Yes. And you're going to write her out quickly. But then Tom Paris gives her a necklace, which took 2 weeks of replicator rations. And she's extremely appreciative of that. So in my notes, Tom Paris gives Cass a necklace, Neelix is going to be jealous. Because of course he is. He's a one-note character in that regard.
Yeah.
And but at least they lampshade it this time to where when she's like, are you going to be jealous now? He's like, oh, no. You've seen the last of the green-eyed monster Neelix, even though that's a cultural reference I shouldn't know because I'm not a human. But then he ends up being jealous anyway, and not just of Tom Paris's necklace. He's like incredibly suspicious and jealous about how do you know where people's quarters are, on all these different decks. And once the ship gets twisted, and it's like, honey, I've read the ship diagram. I mean, haven't you?
It's a small ship.
Yeah, there's
150 people. We've been living on it for a year.
Yeah,
half her life.
But then they have this scene that I just absolutely hate, where Neelix has been they're for some reason they're splitting up into 2-person teams to go look at different things in the ship, and Neelix boasts of his legendary tracking abilities with false humility and volunteers to go with Chakotay. Meanwhile, Janeway is like, Mr. Kim, I'm with you. And shouldn't that be Mr. Kim, you're with me? You're the captain.
Right.
But anyway, they break into these 2-person teams, and Neelix starts asking Chakotay for jealousy advice.
Very uncomfortable questions.
And the first thing that Chakotay says is okay. I mean, jealousy is about fear of losing someone. Yeah. Okay. True. And so that's okay. But then he starts speechifying about, but I find that we always get more by loving someone. And it's just, than not loving someone, even despite the risk of jealousy, and it's just really lame.
Yeah.
But my big problem is, Neelix, are you 14 years old? Have you never been jealous before?
I made the same note.
You're a grown man.
Right.
And even if somehow he's never been jealous before, certainly he's been around other Talaxians who have, right?
Yeah.
And so why should he be puzzled about the phenomenon of jealousy? Like wondering, like, where's this thing coming from or something?
This is the 7 of 9 conversation, right? This is
Yeah.
for someone who never experienced it or didn't remember it. You know, that would make some sense. But not although, to the credit of the actors or the show, or at least Robert Beltran, every time like Chakotay has to be with Neelix, you see him like give this like long suffering sigh and eye roll.
Yeah.
And Chakotay is all of us.
Yeah. And I noted that in particular when they're having the conversation about breaking up into the 2-person teams, and Neelix boasts about his legendary tracking abilities and volunteers to go with Chakotay. And Janeway says, Chakotay, is that okay with you? And he just kind of rolls his eyes. Doesn't say anything.
Right. I mean, that was that. I was amused at that point because, I have a note. Jealous Neelix is especially annoying Neelix. I mean, it's just like we said, it's just one note. And that whole scene you mentioned, like in the corridor, it's uncomfortable. This was like, I could imagine Wesley talking to Riker about this with the very same lines, even, I mean, not necessarily exactly the same, but that sort of thing. But it's just, this is Neelix at, first and second season. Neelix is kind of Neelix at his worst. Once Kes is gone, Neelix never becomes a great character, but he improves in the absence of Kes.
Yeah,
I think
she brought out the worst in him.
She certainly did.
It's ironic. They thought Neelix was going to be the breakout character for this series. Like, they thought he was going to be Quark.
Yeah.
And oh man, no, this is so not Quark. The breakout character ended up being the Doctor.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, he's the one they brought back for the current, Starfleet Academy series and in Prodigy. So yeah. What was I going to say? Paris. Remind me, is Paris actually like romantically interested in Kes at this point? Is that this point?
I don't think so. I think he's. I don't know if he's interested in B'Elanna yet, but
no.
But I don't think he's interested in Kes at this point.
Yeah, the B'Elanna thing is like late season 3 or early season 4. In fact, we've done the episode in season 4 where they profess their affection for each other. But there is a point at which Paris admits he's kind of interested in her. But I forget if we've passed that or if it's still coming. But regardless, it's not really relevant here. I have to say, another funny moment is when in the tease, when Tuvok is calling down from the bridge to tell them that they've encountered a spatial phenomenon, and then it extends it. Phenomena. I'm like, phenomenon. Just through my head, it's a Sesame Street song. And now it's in everybody else's head.
That's not a Sesame Street song, but where it really comes from, we don't need to go into.
Yes, that's true. But that's where most people will know it from.
Yeah, the Muppet Show.
Yes, I do want a Treasubillion fudge cake, but that's a whole nother thing. Other things, everything sends them back to the holodeck for some reason.
Yeah, they also at one point they play around with the maze that they're in is changing, and that's just more extending things out. It's just a new way of not getting where you want to go.
Right.
They finally do. Like, one of the things that occurs to me in watching this early on is, why do they've got some kind of spatial distortion going on to connect up these different parts of the ship? Why is it always in conjunction with the walls and the doors? Why isn't it in the middle of a room,
right,
somewhere? and they eventually kind of get there. They have Harry Kim and Captain Janeway crawling through a tube, and they open up one of the panels in the tube, and there is a visually distorted field on the other side, and Janeway sticks her arm through, and her arm becomes like Reed Richards' Crazy Long and stuff.
Elastigirl.
Yeah. But actually, Elastigirl changed size, but didn't stretch in that way. But she's
I'm thinking the Incredibles Elastigirl, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Elastic Girl from the Doom Patrol. But in any event, they finally get there, and after that, they do get some distortion within rooms, like when they're in the holodeck and they're waiting for the implosion to finish imploding on them, and we get to see a special effect and so forth. But initially, we don't see any special effects. It's just the doors are all wrong.
Yeah, and probably part of the reason we don't see special effects is this is a money-saving bottle show.
Yep.
Yeah. It was supposed to be the season 2 finale, I think. I thought I saw something along those lines.
That could be.
Pushing it back.
They also, towards the end, try to play on the Starfleet Maquis thing. Because Captain Janeway has been knocked out of it for reasons after she was exposed to the stretchy room. But then, even though encountering a spatial anomaly should make you go unconscious, but this time it does. and so Tuvok and Chakotay get on each other's nerves, and they each come up with a different plan for how to try to save the ship, and they end up trying Chakotay's plan, and it fails and makes things worse. And there's then no time to try Tuvok's plan. And so that's when they all give up and say, well, we can't do anything. I guess we better wait and see. Maybe it'll all be okay. And when it finishes imploding on us, and they let it finish, and it is all okay.
This is another one of those stories where, if nobody did anything and they just sat around, it would have the same result in the end.
Yep.
And that makes it for a terrible story. I mean,
it's violating one of the basic rules of drama, which is the actions of the characters are not essential to the resolution of the story. Right. Whether they win or lose, the actions of the characters need to drive the outcome of the story. And here that just doesn't happen. And in fact, we don't have an antagonist that we ever see on screen. It's just this, disembodied force. It turns out to be some kind of probe, that's our motto for Voyager, some kind of probe. We never see them. And then it downloads 20 million gigaquads of data to the computer that never matters because we never hear about it again. Like, at least have it download, I don't know, something as a compensation, some kind of way to take 5 years off the trip or something, or a year off the trip, or whatever it is. Yeah, they eventually decide there is an intelligence behind what's been happening to them. It's just such a strange intelligence that we can't communicate with it, except it leaves us all this data on the computer. And it's like, if it can figure out the computer well enough to leave data on the computer, it should understand the ship is not meant to be put together the way they put it together.
Right. Yeah. Well, and everyone seems pretty unconcerned by the fact that it downloaded the ship's entire database, including presumably classified information. But that's a whole nother thing. The story is kind of a mess from beginning to end. I mean, there's so many holes, so many, unnecessary bits and pieces. It probably just, they probably should have just done something else. They shouldn't have made this one. Or if they did, put more time into it.
Or gone hard Twilight Zone, because that's what this really wants to be, is a Twilight Zone episode. Yeah. And on Next Gen, they had done some good Twilight Zone episodes. Yeah. Like the Remember Me episode, where the Enterprise is getting smaller and smaller, and nobody but Beverly Crusher remembers that there used to be more people.
Right.
You know, and I actually made a list once, at least mentally, of the different Twilight Zone episodes of Next Gen, and they had some really good ones, and that's what this episode wants to be. They just failed to achieve it.
I also applaud the fact that they tried to create a truly alien. You know, not just another bumpy-headed human, or you know, with wild hair like the Kazon, but like a truly alien that's difficult to communicate with. That's great. They should have done a better job with it, but I like the intent behind it. That was good. So yeah, I do want to note that in that moment at the end where they're all facing what might be their death, they have to kind of sit. In one sense, it's kind of interesting that as Starfleet, they're usually, even when they're in the face of death, they're fighting, you know, whether literally or figuratively. But in this one, they've sort of had to accept whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And so they're all kind of dealing with that differently. And I thought that's a little interesting. It didn't save the story for me, but it was at least a little interesting. What was also interesting was how Chakotay was basically stopping to pray. Through whatever religious spiritual tradition he had, the Native American tradition, presumably
the entirely made up Native American tradition. Yeah.
Exactly. And that B'Elanna, you know, asked to join him, you know, and it was silent. They weren't praying aloud or anything like that. It wasn't doing Hakucha Moya, all that stuff. But I thought that was an interesting addition to it. They're kind of again leaning back into Chakotay's spirituality, and whether it's made up or not, it's at least nice to see, you know.
Well, it not only was made up, it was made up by a made up Indian. Right. Because the guy who they hired as their Native American advisor for Chakotay was claimed to be a Native American, but was not.
He was a fraud.
Yeah.
A lying liar.
He was a plastic shaman.
Yep. So, I'm trying to think if anything else we could talk about with this one. There's not much else.
Yeah. One thing just occurred to me as I was watching early on when they had the birthday party for Kes is we get a lot of times when we have aliens who are long-lived, like Vulcans or even Klingons. You know, there's references to them living long times. But we rarely get many aliens who have very short lifespans, like Kes. And that was one thing that was, you know, interesting about Voyager, or at least could have been more interesting if Kes had been a better character, maybe.
Right. Just stuck around.
I mean, they established that her lifespan is like 7 years, and that's how long they planned the show to be. We should have seen her full life cycle.
Yeah.
You know, in season 4, when they finally wrote her out because they'd written her so boringly they didn't know what to do with her, she should have been middle-aged.
Yeah.
You know, when the show started, I was expecting, okay, she's going to noticeably advance in years every season.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
They also wasted the opportunity of when she goes through the elogium, or, you know, the breeding period for her race, and she doesn't have any kids.
Yeah.
Right. They could have had her have a kid. That would have been. I mean, we eventually get Naomi Wildman.
They need to have her have 2 kids for replacement population. But
right. I have to say, it was the surprise party. It was an uncomfortably long period of time before they said surprise. Like, what were they waiting for? Like, someone walks in the room, you flip on the lights and say surprise. Like, you don't wait to live like wandering around in the dark. At that point, I would have already left. Like, oh, I guess nobody's here. I'm leaving. It was weird. It was too long.
Yeah.
Father, any other notes?
Just one last, this Lieutenant Baxter that shows up, you know, he keeps showing up in different places in the episode. I kept thinking, okay, this guy's going to get killed off, because that's what happens, right? When you have a low level officer that you've never seen before suddenly showing up in places.
Especially if they get a name.
Exactly. But he doesn't get killed off. And it's one of the things I thought, okay, yeah, remembered Voyager's got, you know, their limited crew and they're not going to have replacements. So you can't kill people off too easily, I guess. But
like that saved shuttlecrafts.
Well, that's true. And torpedoes, for that matter.
Torpedoes and shuttlecraft. Yep. Baxter shows up in actually a handful of episodes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, you know, I appreciate if they I know this is an ensemble cast show, and they have like 8 characters or so that are a part of our ensemble. But on a ship that they've said is this small, we ought to have recurring characters in the background more than we do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And to their credit, even on TNG, there was the background crew. There were people who showed up regularly, the same faces. Never had lines, but they were, the same extras that were there. That'd be a weird job. Wouldn't it be a weird job to be like a non-speaking extra on a 7-season show and just...
That was like Siler on Stargate SG-1. I mean, he was originally, the actor who played him was originally Richard Dean Anderson's stuntman, but they used him as a background character, eventually gave him a name. And
lines, too. So, he eventually got lines. But yeah, the Siler character was funny because he was always getting injured somehow, electrocuted, falling off of things. Yeah, that's a good one. Jimmy, any other notes on this one?
No, I was just entertained by the fact normally, when I do episode summaries, it takes like 20 lines of, these are real short lines, but in my episode summary, it's normally like 20 lines long, sometimes 30 if it's a really complex script. Here it's 8.
Yeah. And somehow we managed to milk almost 26 minutes of conversation out of it.
Yeah.
You got Stargate in there, so
that's true.
There was a running gag on our another show on our network, The Secrets of Stargate. How many times they actually mentioned Star Trek?
Really?
So we've flipped the script on them and we've mentioned Stargate on our show. Well, I guess this cow's is out of milk, so we should probably wrap it up.
Space milked this space cow.
Coming up next week on Voyager, space cow getting space milk. No. All right. We'd like to take a moment now to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Star Trek, including Theo V, Paul B, Brian B, J. Michael T, and William N. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And so that's it from us this time. What did you think of Voyager's episode Twisted? You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek, our Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to trek@sqpn.com. Visit our Discord community at sqpn.com/discord, or watch The Secrets of Star Trek on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing an episode that's going to make Twisted look like some of the greatest Star Trek ever, A Night in Sickbay. Oh, 2 weeks in a row. Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing The Secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you. Live long and prosper. I'm trying to remember the Klingon for this means war.
And Father Jason Tyler, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, I'm a doctor, not a bartender.